It is extension season in the NFL as training camp rolls along. A couple of big ones coming down the pipeline. We talk about that. If bad teams can surprise this season, plus who is the most middling team in the NFL, that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready. Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
You are Locked On NFL. Welcome into the show. I'm your host of today, Kevin Oestreicher. I'm not Tyler Rowland, the madman, filling in for Tyler here today on the morning edition of Locked On NFL, giving you your double shot of espresso each and every single morning. And all the NFL content that you need is right here on Locked On NFL. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And thanks so much for being here, making Locked On NFL a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. Are free and available on all podcasting platforms, including in video form on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe to the channel, and in audio form where you can follow along and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. A big shout out to all the everydayers, the first time listeners, and if you're somewhere in the middle, thank you for tuning in as well. We are here on Locked On NFL. We're breaking out all the biggest stories around the NFL with the help of our Locked On NFL experts. And that today is Luke Braun, the host over at Locked On Vikings. Luke, how is everything in Vikings land right now? Football content is back on the timeline. Feels like we are truly back, and I couldn't be happier, especially we're getting the hot take season, like everything. It's just, it's poetry in motion.
Life is sweet. Life is sweet. Hope springs eternal. Everything is hype. We love to see it.
That's all you can ask for at this point. We get the power rankings. List season feels like it's finally over, which,
listicle season.
Couple of weeks there, you couldn't really escape it. Us on the network, we did our own list, which I'm very proud of. And we had some top rankings in there, some controversial rankings in there, as all lists do. So if you missed that, be sure to check that out, because we also took part in listicle season on the Locked On Podcast Network. But we're here today. We're going to dive into a lot of things. In the final part of the show, Luke, everybody talks about who's the best team in the NFL, who's the worst team in the NFL. I want us to find the most middling. Who is that 16th team?
Who is the exactly 16th team in the NFL?
Exactly 16. I want to find that team. We'll do that in the final part of the show. In the second part, we'll be talking about a couple of teams that are supposed to be bad this season. There was some news surrounding them, and could those teams maybe surprise in ways that we're not really anticipating right now? But in the first part of the show, Luke, it is extension season. You kind of get into that point of the early portion of training camp where teams are deciding to lock up some of their young stars, and we got a couple of big extensions that came down the pipeline. First of all, the Dallas Cowboys. They've been talked about as a team that is hopeful to compete in that NFC East alongside the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Commanders. They got Jake Ferguson, their young star tight end, under contract. Landon McCool of Locked On Cowboys, he reacted to that deal. We'll hear what Landon had to say, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
Breaking news is the Dallas Cowboys have signed a big biscuit to a big extension. Hi, I'm Landon McCool with the Locked On Cowboys podcast, and Jake Ferguson got a 4-year extension from the Dallas Cowboys, making him the highest paid tight end in franchise history. This was a little bit surprising, but again, for a team that is known for not exactly getting deals done a little bit early, the Cowboys get ahead of this one a little bit before Jake has potentially a breakout season this year with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens on the outside, and re-sign him to a deal that last year was kind of supposed to be his breakout year. Unfortunately, he had some injury issues. He put on some weight to kind of slowed him down, but he had looked good in training camp and was due for a new contract. So this is a pleasant surprise for the Cowboys, who get their tight end for 4 more years. For more on this, make sure you check us out on the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
So Luke, Ferguson's deal slotting in among tight ends at that $13 million average annual value, right behind Ravens tight end Mark Andrews and David Njoku, right ahead of Cole Kmet in Chicago. Landon used the word a little surprising. I mean, was this surprising to you that he was signed and the money that he ended up getting?
It isn't really a good player. Keep him around. The Cowboys' MO is not always to let those really good players walk. I know they've got their whole thing with Micah Parsons that played out, but I don't know. I feel like they've been trying to stay this course with this sort of Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb thing. And I think Jake Ferguson is a pretty important part of that, maybe even an underrated part of that. So no, this doesn't surprise me at all. It feels like a very much natural course of action.
Do you believe in what the Cowboys have put around Dak Prescott? And obviously that also includes trusting Dak Prescott in the first place. But, George Pickens comes in. I liked that move for them. Obviously, the Steelers wanted to move off of him for, other reasons beyond the football field. Just wasn't meshing, the whole Mike Tomlin situation. Brian Schottenheimer comes in here. I think Dak Prescott's going to be leaning on Jake Ferguson. And I think it's nice to have him with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, to have Jake Ferguson kind of be that third option as opposed to what it's been over the last couple of years, which is like CeeDee Lamb and friends with Jake Ferguson thrown in there.
Yeah, like it's a cog in the machine, right? I think what the Cowboys have done this year is, I mean, I maybe I'm overweighting the draft pick of Tyler Booker. But I want them to be a much more serious, balanced team. I think what a big problem with the Cowboys is they've tried to put a lot on Dak Prescott. They kind of have made him put the whole world on his shoulders. You have to find, CeeDee Lamb is one thing, but no, you've got to make this work with Michael Gallup and, whoever is rotating in when CeeDee Lamb needs a breather. So having a little bit more serious stuff around them is great. The thing is, I don't know if enough about the Cowboys has changed for me to believe anything other than that they're going to be like an also ran again. They kind of always are with Dak Prescott. And that's not because Prescott's a bad quarterback. It's just because he has just enough moments in him to like ruin a game or two. And when that happens in January, it ends your season. On Jake Ferguson, though, I was just looking this up. So adjusted for the cap environment that we are in right now. So as a percentage of the current year's cap, which is a better way to compare contracts historically, because the cap changes and goes up so much. This is actually extraordinarily similar to the contract the Cowboys signed Jason Witten to in 2006 in terms of just size. So there you go. It's their MO. They like the tight end. They keep the tight end.
Yeah, it's worked for him in the past. Why not do it again in the future? It all works out. And speaking of other Cowboys news, the Cowboys, there was initial fears that Tyler Guyton tore his ACL, but luckily it was not that. He's expected to miss just 4 to 6 weeks after tests show a bone fracture. So one of the Tylers on that offensive line avoids a serious injury, which is always great news. Speaking of the offensive line, though, Luke, the Colts, they signed a big-time offensive lineman to a big-time deal. Bernhard Reinman, he gets $100 million from the Colts.
Right.
And to me, I think it's a pretty massive deal. Where are you on him right now in terms of the money that he got and his impact he's had on the Colts so far?
I like him. I like him as a tackle, so I'm all right with it. It's what these guys are going for this year, though. This kind of, $25 million a year type of deal it's what these guys are getting. Again, it's really important when you start talking about dollar amounts for 100, right? That's what you said?
Yes.
4 for 100. Yeah. So 25 a year. It's really important when thinking of these dollar amounts to understand that these teams also have more money than they've ever had before. And that is true every year. They've had more money than the last year. So every year they have the most money they've ever had, which means every year players are going to be getting the most money that they've ever gotten, even if they're not the household names that you're used to. That said, I think Bernhard Raiman's important. And with the sort of talent drain that the Colts experienced on their interior this year, they lost, and I know this because they both joined the Vikings, but they lost Ryan Kelly and Will Fries. Very important to have that stalwart left tackle protecting, whether it's Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones. You can't have all of the light bulbs go out at once on a position. That is the best way to have that position be a problem for you for, I'm not kidding, a decade. If you lose all of those players, you can't replace every player on a unit at once, whether it's secondary, O-line, D-line, whatever. You can't replace them all at once. You have to, if guys are starting to get old and phase out, you have to keep somebody in the building, something anchoring the identity of that unit, and try to swap pieces out one at a time and ship of Theseus this. That, to me, is what the Colts are doing as they embark on what is, whether they like it or not, going to be an O-line rebuild, because Quentin Nelson is not going to last forever either. So getting that unit together as well, I think the Colts are sitting in a moment where they don't know who their future quarterback is. And that's a bummer about Anthony Richardson, but it doesn't feel like they feel that way about him and Daniel Jones. Like, we're not going to sit here and try to say he'll be the quarterback for the Colts in 5 years. Whoever that guy is, they better have an O-line ready by the time that guy enters the building. If it's not one of the two guys in the building right now, then they kind of have the time to get that together. And then once the new quarterback enters the building, you have an O-line ready to keep that guy upright, especially if it's a rookie.
Yeah, it's so important. I mean, the offensive line is one of those positions you have to have. Jake Arthur at Locked On Colts, he reacted to the news, so we'll hear his thoughts, and we will dive into what he had to say.
All right, guys, the Colts making some late-night moves. They have locked up left tackle Bernhard Raimann to a 4-year extension. What's up, everybody? This is Jake Arthur with Locked On Colts, and the Colts have extended Raimann 4 years, $100 million. He now ranks number 6 in the NFL among offensive tackles in guaranteed money. It's $60 million. Total contract value, $100 million, $25 million. He's number 6 pretty much everywhere. And this comes a day after the Chargers locked up Rashawn Slater. So, of course, dominoes begin to fall, and that gets things moving quite a bit. This is a no-brainer for the Colts. You know, they keep a left tackle in his prime up into, I think it's the 2029 season through his age 32 season. So, regardless of what regime is here next year, you know, Chris Ballard, Shane Steichen, what have you, that team is going to need a left tackle. And trust me, I mean, think, Colts fans, how hard has it been to find a dependable quarterback? It's about just as hard to get a left tackle unless you're going to pay some sort of huge contract, make a huge trade, or be drafting like in the top 5 or top 10. So Raimann was definitely a player the Colts could not afford to lose.
It is extension season. The Colts, maybe Luke, will be locking up more of their young talent, but it's an intriguing conversation.
Deal. I got a draft take that needs that Kwity Paye deal. I need him to get a second contract, okay? I got some points to
do it for Luke, Indianapolis. Do it for Luke. You heard it here first, all right? But extensions are coming aplenty. And coming up in the second part of the show, we'll be diving a little bit more into some of these quote-unquote bad teams. Teams aren't really expected to do a lot this season. There was some news on both the Cleveland Browns and the Tennessee Titans. We'll talk about those teams and if they could maybe surprise more than people are anticipating they will. All that and more coming up on Locked On NFL. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. Fantasy football is back. Fire up the group chat. Get your draft board ready and buckle up for a season filled with breakouts, busts, and all the overreactions we live for. It's all going down on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, me and Locked On NFL are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. Now, I've used Yahoo Fantasy for years, and I love just how smooth the draft day experience is. You get all the player analysis that you need to get ready and stay on top of your league. Plus, the draft boards are incredible. Everything's incredible over at Yahoo Fantasy. And to celebrate 28 years of fantasy greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days, giving you more ways to play, more ways to draft, and more ways to win. It all begins August 4th. Stay tuned and get started by creating and joining Yahoo Fantasy Football League at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That's yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. And let's make this fantasy season the best one yet. Back here, Locked On NFL, Kevin Ostreicher, Luke Braun, still diving into all the NFL content here on the show. On Wednesday, and Luke, the Cleveland Browns, they are in it. They are one of the teams in the NFL this season, and they are expected
Must they
play some games in the NFL
Birmingham
this
Stallions
year.
In for a year just to try it.
Relegation. We'll have them fight for the number 32 spot. We'll make it happen. Spencer German over at Locked On Browns, he's been out at training camp. He's been observing this. There was a couple of pieces of news on the Browns, including their quarterback situation. If all 4 quarterbacks on the roster will be with the Browns come regular season, as well as an unfortunate injury update. So we have a big recap from Spencer we're going to play here, and then Luke and I will dive into the Cleveland Browns and just what they are at this point.
Another day down, day 6, wrapping up here in Berea, and it was a very eventful day, really from start to finish, with the Haslam speaking today for what is their second media appearance of every single year. They do it at the owners' meetings. They do it here at the start of training camp. And they had a ton to say, from the stadium stuff, from players with disciplinary issues off the field and how they're assessing that. Jimmy Haslam did say they do expect at some point to sign and have Quinshon Judkins as a Cleveland Brown, but he's being cautiously optimistic, so that was notable. And I thought the other interesting thing that he said, beyond the stadium stuff, which continues to evolve day to day, was that he once again sort of doubled down on this idea that finding their franchise quarterback is going to take time. It's not going to be this quick fix. So that's how we kind of started the day. Then you get out here in the practice field. I know everybody wants the quarterback stats. I wrote some down for you. In total, Joe Flacco took 15 total snaps between 11 on 11s and 7 on 7s. You had 18 for Dylan Gabriel and 12 for Shedeur Sanders. Flacco, by my count, 8 of 11. Gabriel, 10 of 15. And Shedeur, 7 of 10. I thought Gabriel had maybe his best day. He was dropping some really nice passes into tight windows, making some tight window throws at different points of the practice, whether it was 11 on 11s and 7 on 7s. Flacco, steady as always. And I thought Shedeur was good up until the final drill. It was kind of this 2-minute 11 on 11s trying to get down the field and score. And I thought he struggled a little bit to kind of get through his progressions with the 2s and the 3s kind of mixed together like he's been doing. So not his best day, but it's okay. I think he had a solid day yesterday, and I thought Dylan, again, taking another step today in terms of making the most of those reps that he's getting, with Kenny Pickett obviously dealing with the injury situation. So the other notable thing that happened today on the practice field is an unfortunate one. Hate to share this news, but Martin Emerson Jr. going down with what looks like a serious knee injury. Don't want to speculate too much, but they did have to bring the card out. He was very emotional. It was non-contact from what everybody could kind of gather in watching that play. Happened during a 7-on-7 session with the ones, and there was kind of this pause and this hush over practice for a few minutes while he was attended to and dealt with that. And so that changes the math on a lot on this defensive side of the football. A guy who I've been talking about having a bounce-back season now might be out of the picture.
And so there actually was an update on Emerson after Spencer recorded that video. It's looking like it's a serious Achilles injury, and obviously if that is the case, and it's looking like it is, that will end his season, which is unfortunate. Emerson, I think, is a really talented player and has a good head on his shoulders, too. He's a really good person and a really good player, and that's a tough blow to a Cleveland defense that obviously has Myles Garrett on it. They're hoping for a good season. Obviously, Luke, the Browns are playing in the AFC North. There are a lot of teams in that AFC North that just have better rosters than Cleveland does. It's hard for them to kind of go through this. We also know Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah won't be playing for them this season, so losing pieces on that defense is tough, especially when you have to go up against teams like the Ravens and the Bengals and those high-powered offenses. The quarterback situation is really intriguing. It feels like it's Joe Flacco's job to lose at least early on in the season, and then maybe if things go poorly for Cleveland, they want to bring some fans to the stadium. Maybe they'll turn to one of their young quarterbacks and see what they have. But do you feel like the Browns, Luke, are any closer to finally figuring out than they were, I don't know, 2-3 years ago? Or do you think they're still just kind of stuck in this place where it's like, man, what are you doing?
No, the second they made that Watson trade, which is probably the second worst trade in NFL history, worst contract in NFL history, though. And they did those. The second they did that, they sort of married themselves to 4 to 5 years of it. And even if he is unavailable, hurt, ripped apart by a pack of jackals, I don't know, whatever happens to him, you're still stuck in that because of what you spent to get him, the commitments you made, the guarantees that you made, and all that. And the fact that it's really hard to then, under that burden, move on and get a new quarterback. For me, I think the only real reasonable goal for the Browns this year is to figure out if they have and if they've lucked into a day 3 quarterback that can be their guy. But assuming you don't find that out, or like a Kenny Pickett renaissance or something like that, which honestly feels like it might be their best bet, although he's hurt now too. Other than that, it feels a little bit like I don't care what the deck chairs are doing here. And it's about just surviving for guys like Kevin Stefanski. Just don't lose the job, right? Win enough games to not lose the job. And I don't know if that's going to happen this year, but either way, it's like not possible to click a full reset button. Otherwise, I think they would have. They've been, like, Jimmy Haslam has certainly been quicker to do it in the past, but I don't really see this being that team. I just kind of feel like this is a team that is sleepwalking into the ether and hoping that they can survive later.
Yeah, it's a honestly pretty good way to sum that up right there. Cleveland, it's Still a long road ahead for them to get to where they want to be, and I don't know if they're going to get to where they want to be anytime soon. But a team that is looking to get back to some of the good years they had recently. It's been a little rough for them lately. It is the Tennessee Titans, and Tyler Rowland, you might have heard of him on the show maybe once or twice before. He talked about Treylon Burks and the fact that he got injured again at Titans training camp, and Tennessee just decided, you know what? This is it. This is over. We're moving on. The Titans officially cut Treylon Burks, and we're going to play a clip from Tyler here reacting to that news, and then we'll talk about it here on the other side.
Well, look, it was time. All right, the Tennessee Titans cut Treylon Burks after he gets injured again. Look, the entire Treylon Burks process was just an absolute disaster. From the trading away A.J. Brown, that was always absolutely ridiculous, to the first experience of Treylon Burks at rookie minicamp, his rookie year. He had to leave because he was in bad shape, and he had to hit an inhaler, and we were all arguing over whether it was asthma or if he was not in shape. Like, it has just been a disaster all the way through. We'll always have that incredible catch in Green Bay on that night in Green Bay where the Titans won. But, like, the reality is Treylon Burks is not a good player. And we can talk about the injuries and say, oh, if he didn't get injured, there were times when he was healthy where he just wasn't a very good player. So he was never going to be the first-round pick that we wanted. He was never going to be anywhere close to A.J. Brown. And look, there are a lot of Titans fans out there who love to, just destroy themselves. This is the worst trade of all time. This is not the worst trade of all time. The Herschel Walker trade, the Ricky Williams trade, I'd even throw, the Deshaun Watson trade in there. I mean, this is probably a top 10 worst NFL trade of all time, but this is not the worst NFL trade of all time. It's bad, trust me, but it's not the worst of all time. But the Treylon Burks experience is over, and I think that's best for everyone.
So shout out to Tyler.
I think I agree with his top 3 worst trades of all time there. I think I'd
and look, he knows, even when he's not
Same
on
order.
Posting Locked on NFL, he knows we're talking about the Deshaun Watson trade.
He knows to get a shot in at me. That's good. But mentioning Herschel Walker, deal me some emotional damage real quick. Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah. You have to take it up with him when you next
No,
talk to him.
It's fair.
No, it definitely is. But
I do have one quick pedantic thing about this, but it's an important detail. He wasn't straight up cut. He was waived injured. And as we have been recording this, he did clear waivers and has reverted to IR. So Treylon Burks' season is over. He's on season ending IR. And that's the last year of his contract. So he'll be a free agent afterwards. Right. A slightly different decision than saying you got injured again, we're cutting you. Waived injured is, you are too injured. You will not play this season. Right. So one way or another, he's going to become a free agent next year.
Right. If you get put on IR before the season, your season is done. So
without a designation to return.
Yeah. With whole Treylon Burks and that situation, look, the trade that the Titans made trading away A.J. Brown was certainly one of the trades of all time in the NFL, not necessarily one. And when it happened, I mean, Tennessee fans were livid. I remember Tyler's reaction to it, not great. You're banking on it's like, wow, we have A.J. Brown, or we have this mystery box that could be A.J. Brown. And, just looking at Tennessee's receiving group right now, Calvin Ridley, Tyler Lockett, Van Jefferson. Luke, how was the core that Tennessee has put around Cam Ward during his rookie season? Not the Treylon Burks, I think, would have been this number 1 1,000-yard receiver or anything.
He was not their number 1. No,
not
Calvin
at all.
Ridley, right?
Not at all. Based off the receivers, though, where do you think this core is in terms of helping Cam Ward maximize his potential in year 1?
It's veteran, right? I mean, it's Tyler Lockett, Calvin Ridley, and Van Jefferson. These guys have all been around the block, which is going to be helpful to a young quarterback, even if they're not the best receiver. I mean, Van Jefferson is not going to be, dominating anybody's fantasy lineups, but even just as somebody with some experience in I think the Brian Callahan scheme is McVay tree, right? Because I think he came from Cincy. I forget.
Yeah, Callahan, from Cincinnati.
Yeah, so Van Jefferson has experience in those schemes that can be nice and helpful in offensive meeting rooms. Not to mention all the experience that Tyler Lockett has with, Shane Waldron and Calvin Ridley, who's been around the block. These guys have all been in the league, and that can help a young quarterback. I don't know if that's going to make for a lot of great production. I don't know if that's a trio that I would do, but I honestly, I'm taking that trio over, I don't know, not 0 teams, right? I'm taking that trio over a fair number of teams in this league. That's fine. I have liked a lot of what they've done recently on the O-line. And, Chig is a good player. Like, I think they've got a little bit of an offense around Cam Ward. So he's got at least enough there where you're not going to have to throw out his rookie season Trevor Lawrence style because it was just so much of a disaster, right? I don't see the Titans being the team, taking the AFC South or anything over the Texans or maybe even a plucky Colts team, but or I guess maybe the Jags, Trevor Lawrence can finally decide he's better than 17th overall. But it's good enough where this can be a valuable developmental process for Cam Ward. And for these teams with rookie quarterbacks, especially ones that draft in the top 5 that are coming off of really bad years, you kind of go, okay, you don't need to immediately become a Super Bowl contender. You just drafted first overall. You were just the worst team in the league. If Cam Ward looks good, this season is a success for me for the Titans. And I think that they have put at least enough circumstances around him where he absolutely has the opportunity to do that.
Yeah. I agree. We're not crowning Tennessee Super Bowl champions. We're not saying they're going to win the AFC South, although that division is weird in its own right. But I'm not saying they're going to win the AFC South. There are different successes you can take for each team, and I agree with you, Luke. If Cam Ward can show that he has the potential to be Tennessee's next franchise quarterback, doesn't have to be this all-time season, but if he just shows that potential, I think that Tennessee's in a really good spot. But coming up in the final part of the show, Luke and I will begin our quest to find the 16th rated team, the most middling team in the NFL. So stay tuned. We got plenty coming your way on the show. First, the show is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. And let's be honest, some days on the course or even off of it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. And for me, I've seen a lot of crazy, wild shots on the golf course. A lot of my family are avid golfers, and I've seen hole-in-ones, crazy shots, the whole 9 yards. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors. Of course, the grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the bev cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONGolf to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through, order transfusion flavored 5 Hour Energy shots today. Back here, it's Locked On NFL with Luke Braun. I am Kevin Ostreicher. We're rounding out the show here today on this Wednesday. And Luke, I'm excited for this. We go through all these lists all off season about, man, who's the best team? And we got all these debates on social media and on TV and on radio. And then you're like, oh, who's the worst team? Now I want to find literally the 16th rated team in the NFL. And I think we both have. Yeah, I know, right? We both have some contenders. I'm going to play 2 clips, one from Locked On Dolphins and Kyle Krabs, one from Locked On Patriots and Nick Cattles. Those are 2 teams that we discussed beforehand that are possibly in this conversation. So I want to play those, and then we'll also list off some other teams that I think will also be in contention. So here is the Dolphins with Kyle Krabs.
We want big, exceptionally explosive, exceptionally powerful trench players on either side of the ball to help us change who we are on the line of scrimmage. That's everyone's number one complaint about the Dolphins. Is they're too soft up front. They're not overly physical. Then he drafted these guys with their first 3 picks. If they're right on all of them, obviously it's a game-changing proposition.
All right, now I'm going to do Patriots from Nick Cattles.
And even if it's not conversations every single day, just watching Diggs and his work ethic, that sets a tone. When somebody comes back from an ACL surgery as quickly as Diggs has come back, it means he cares about what he does. It means that he works his tail off. He's very precise in what he does, the route running, all that stuff. So he's a fantastic tone setter on the field. His experience is going to help people even more. Iron sharpens iron.
So with these 2 teams, Luke, in particular, the Dolphins are a team that I think are kind of fighting for this team as it stands right now. If it doesn't work out, there are probably going to be a lot of big changes that are happening. And then on the Patriot side of things, it's like they're an up-and-coming team. They've signed some veterans. I think people expect them to, maybe make some noise potentially, not as the AFC's champions, but could maybe sneak into some conversations What are your arguments for both those teams as we look to find this number 16th team in the NFL?
Yeah, I feel like the Dolphins have been this team for a while now, right? Maybe they sneak into the 7th seed. Maybe they're just out of the playoffs. And part of that is always that Tua is going to miss a month with some injury. Kyle is right that they have bolstered their D-line with a youth movement in the last few years that is very inspiring. I like it a lot. And it's a lot of my favorite guys from those drafts too. So like I personally especially like Kenneth Grant and Chop Robinson and even Jalen Phillips. But why am I supposed to believe that this is a different Tua than we've ever seen? Hey, if you're just going to say, oh, well, he'll be super healthy this year and that'll be great. Really? You sure? Because how do we do that? But also, I mean, last year, even when he was healthy, the game I don't think he finished the week 2 game against, I think it was New England where he got hurt. 3 interceptions in that game. 3 interceptions later in the season after he got back in a debacle against Houston. Those games were the difference. Those 2 games right there. You can't be that. If you're going to break out of this cycle of mediocrity, you can't have a quarterback that's like good for a couple of disaster games every year. Yeah. You can't have that. You can have all the 400-yard games you want, but if you have a 3 or 4 interception total meltdown in you, that's going to blow up your season. The difference between being the 16th and the 8th best team is 2 games. That's how it works. You can't be a week-to-week proposition. And I just don't really see much of the Dolphins offense changing. This same unit that has been stifled and without Tua or without the proper, with a hobbled Tyreek Hill or whatever, suddenly struggles a whole bunch. The cold weather allegations and all that. Yeah. It's stale. That's what it is. The team that was, hung 70 on the Broncos, that was 2022. That was now 4 seasons ago. It's time to be something else.
Is this finally going to be the year? Year X of this? I'm not so sure. And the Patriots are another one to me where, it is like on the opposite side of it. No.
Who made you put the Patriots on this list?
But it's fun because I think when you talk about, who's this middling team, the conversation is like, who's this team that like has such middling talent? And like, it's a different way to look at it because for the Patriots, like they have improved. I'm assuming you're looking at like the Drake May leap is maybe putting them in this conversation. Sure. They've added the veterans around him. We heard Nick talk about Stephon Diggs there. Are the Patriots kind of like that team you're looking at for 16, or are there other teams you also want to throw into the conversation?
Yeah, the reason so you asked me what are the teams, and I'm like, okay, hot take Patriots, let me cook. So the Patriots won like 3-4 games last year. So this is me projecting a pretty big leap forward. I think a 500-ish Patriots season would make most Patriots fans pretty satisfied, assuming Drake May looks good, who I still very much believe in. Stephon Diggs is a young quarterback's best friend. He is an inaccuracy eraser. He has a huge catch radius, especially for his body. So you can spray him a little bit and he'll find a way to bring him in. That's always been his game. And beyond that, it's a much more serious line, which was a huge problem in New England. They had like week 1 starter Vidarian Lowe now being replaced by the number 6, I think, overall pick, Will Campbell.
I think 4.
4 overall pick, Will Campbell. Vidarian Lowe is now a 3rd teamer. They've added a lot of depth. They got Garrett Bradbury in. He's a center that I personally like a lot. Most people see him as probably below average, but a starter, a more serious player. Cole Strange, I think, has been, Michael Nwenu, those guys in there for a while. They have a much better setup around Drake May to be able to take that leap. I think what they've been able to put together in recent years on defense has, I think, been a little underrated, but now they add Milton Williams and Carlton Davis, and they have this big free agency and stuff. They have enough talent to do some reasonable things. Is this team going all the way? Absolutely. No, that's not, unless Drake May has a Joe Burrow style year 2 leap, chill out. But not unlike the Titans, who actually might be part of this conversation too, they have surrounded their young quarterback with at least enough where you're not going to Justin Fields him. You're not going to, put him in such horrible circumstances that he can't even remotely develop. I think this happened to Trevor Lawrence as well. As for other teams, I just went to FanDuel and I looked at like who's got plus 4,000-ish odds to make the playoffs. That puts you in the 16-ish range. And you get the Arizona Cardinals, you get the Chicago Bears, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Dallas Cowboys, who we talked about, Seattle Seahawks. That's the sort of range of Atlanta Falcons and Jaguars I kind of like too. That's the sort of range of teams that we get. And you know what? 2 of those teams are going to make the playoffs and make us look like idiots. 2 of those teams are going to be drafting top 10 and make us look like idiots. That's how this works. But I think that, I don't know, there's a list for everybody to choose from.
Yeah, and maybe the biggest takeaway of all of this is you just can't choose the 16th team because there are too many of them that qualify. So we can talk about a lot of different ones. And yeah, you're right. I'm sure that some of them will really make us look like fools here. But Luke, I appreciate you joining me. Thank you to everybody who tuned in, watched, and listened to Locked On NFL today. Again, we got you covered with that double shot of espresso in the morning. Tyler Rowland has that for you as I'm filling it for him. Then he could also tune into the barbershop in the afternoon with Tony Wiggins, who gives you that double dose of NFL content. So be sure you keep it here on Locked On NFL. Hit that like and subscribe button in video form. Follow along in audio form. We'll see you right back here soon on Locked On NFL.